notice. But as long as this mass element is led, and when I say led, I use led in quotes, actually contained by Uncle Tom Negro leaders who hold them back, who tell them turn the other cheek, and things like that, then the white power structure isn't worried at all. They're only worried when they know that the masses of black people are ready to explode, and in exploding it will destroy some of the furniture in their house, and then they react accordingly.
Mr. Morrison?
Well, I believe that the dominant interests in our society, which are white, of course, are extremely worried that their system will be seriously damaged. It is disrupted now, and they want to halt the disruption which is being caused by the rising wave of militancy among Negroes all over the country. President Kennedy, in commenting on the efforts and the methods being used by American Negroes to gain their ends and their goals, which simply stated are unrestricted access to citizenship rights, said that it is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets. But the Negro started out trying to settle his problems and to correct his disadvantages and destroy the basis for his struggle and eliminate the grievances, very serious grievances he had in the courts. Our NAACP was set up on the basis of legal struggle and legal tactics alone, and it had to revise its whole approach to the question.
And yet, Mr. Morrison, it seems to me that the president was saying that while he seeks to remove the struggle from the streets, that the courts have gone quite far, that the presidential office, the executive branch of our government, in the president's terms, has made certain steps, and he seems to be saying more now. He says, we face, therefore, a moral crisis as a country and a people. They cannot be met by repressive police action. It cannot be left to increase demonstrations in the streets. It cannot be quieted by token moves or talk. It is time to act in the Congress, in your state and local legislative body, and above all, in all of our daily lives, which is more than saying, let's send it back to the courts.
Why didn't he say this 3 years ago? Why didn't he say this when all of these sit-ins and freedom rides were very peacefully going on in the South and in other parts of the North? The man didn't say anything until he found out that black people in this country were ready to explode. And as soon as he saw that the explosion then was a threat to the white society, he came up with this mealy-mouthed speech, which is too late, and it's only a speech. We still don't see any actions that have stemmed from it. It's still only in the stage of words.
I think the speech is late, Minister Malcom X, but not too late. No pronouncement that was that impressive and forthright from a president of the United States.
No one made a better pronouncement than Abraham Lincoln made 100 years ago, and that still hasn't been put into practice. It's still a pronouncement.
Sir, I applaud words for what words are worth, and those were good and beautiful words. Now we want to see the president follow up these words with deeds, because we will judge him in the next election. We will judge the entire administration, not by the beauty of the words which they uttered, nor the soundness of those words. We will judge them by what they do. Now, what can he do? He will propose legislation. This legislation must be forthright and powerful legislation, covering the whole gamut of discrimination against Negroes in housing, in employment, in schools, in public places. It must strike at the very root of segregation and prejudice. The president must do more than propose the legislation. He must get out and fight for it. He has a good chance of pushing it through now. I'd like to remind us that the president, in part, foreclosed the possibility of success of civil rights legislation by not fighting for a change in Senate Rule 22 at the beginning of this session of Congress. Now it'll be more difficult, but I think he can push it through. And I'd like to say that we are not going to sit by idly if we have to be spectators at the same old tragic comic opera of a filibuster in the Senate of the United States. We plan to have demonstrations, nonviolent demonstrations, and massive there. And I'm sure Wyatt Walker can tell you that they have similar plans.
Yes, I would heartily agree with Jim Farmer, and I can understand the impatience and frustration that Malcom X evidences.
Not frustration. I want to straighten you out. Maybe impatience, but not frustration.
Well,
you're only frustrated when you don't get what you expect. And a black man is out of his mind after sitting around here listening to these political speeches by politicians for 100 years. He's out of his mind if he thinks that he's going to get anything more today than he got 100 years ago.
Well, I was about to say that Mr. Kennedy probably has another think coming if he proposes legislation, and I personally don't believe that it has a prayer of passing. I hope he doesn't think that this politically will get him off of the hook. Merely to propose it and then it gets killed by a filibuster will not be enough. And as Jim Farmer's indicated, CORE has some definite plans, as does the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. I don't think it can be solved this summer by proposed legislation, which seems to me destined for failure. I think it's got to come through some strong executive action. It may be that we'll have to see martial law declared in several areas throughout the South.
You mean a military dictatorship?
Well, I don't choose to describe it as.
It'll take a military dictatorship to bring black people and white people together in the same house. It'll take a military. If all of the token integration, which you've seen in the South, and it's only tokenism, and if this has caused the bloodshed that it has, what do you think white people, both North and South, will do on the basis of real integration? If you only ask for crumbs, and the granting of those crumbs causes bloodshed, what do you think will be caused when you ask for a loaf of bread or a bakery in which to bake your own bread?
Well, let me continue with the business of the power structure, which is the point I ultimately wanted to make about wanting to contain it. I agree with Mr. Morrison in point that they'd like to have the revolution developed on a schedule, but revolutions don't develop like that. And I think this is what's apparent to the administration and to the whole nation. And the reason we're having such a thrust now is because America as a nation has never really grappled with the problem of race and color prejudice in America. And its most grievous error was made shortly after the Emancipation Proclamation, when it made a moral compromise, and we're bearing the fruits of it now. And the revolution is not going to develop in an orderly and scheduled fashion. It's going to develop so fast that the administration won't be able to cope with it until something is done nationwide, north, south, east, and west. I don't think there's any other course for it to take. And in some moments, I think it's going to be even more swift than what Jim Farmer conjectured. We may see the resolution of this in another year.
Farmer?
Yes, I think what the power structure is really afraid of, more so than guns, because they can get bigger guns, they can pull up howitzers. In the age of the atomic bomb and the nuclear bomb, they're not so much afraid of the guns which we may have. We don't have many guns compared with the guns which they can pull up. They are more afraid of the dollar. A. Philip Randolph has said that the only book which is universally understood in our country is the pocketbook. And he's right. What the businessmen in Greensboro were scared to death of was the fact that people were not buying. Not only black people, but white people were staying off the streets, perhaps for different reasons. I'm sure for different reasons. But they were staying off the streets downtown. Nobody was buying. And if they can't make money out of the situation, then they want to do a rethink, because they love the dollars more than they love discrimination and segregation. Now, we in CORE are going to use the dollar weapon more than we've ever used it before. We have set a deadline of July 4th. And we are calling upon all businesses that are parts of chains, north and south, not only to stop segregating in their facilities, but also to stop discriminating in their employ. They must employ Negroes and whites in all categories by July 4th. If they do not, and if they are parts of national chains, then they will face imminent boycotts, economic pressure, and mass demonstrations. Now, we're not saying that they have to complete the process of creating open businesses without discrimination by July 4th, but at least there has to be a commitment for the imminent end of segregation and discrimination in their places of accommodation.
It should be also said, to buttress what Jim has just indicated, that this is why the power structure wants to contain it, because granting to the Negro full emancipation means a readjustment of the entire economy of the United States.